Ladies and gentlemen, we now move from skill development towards the second pillar of Udyami Bharat, which is prosperity. The focus now shifts to enhancing the access to finance through innovative financial strategies and fostering growth through globalization initiatives. By facilitating easier credit access and promoting international market integration, this pillar aims to drive economic prosperity and expand the global reach of Indian enterprises. Ladies and gentlemen, I now take the pleasure of inviting on stage Mr. Dhrubashish Bhattacharya, Head MSME and Co-Lending Bank of Baroda, to deliver the keynote address and share his valuable perspectives and viewpoints on the industry. Mr. Bhattacharya's extensive knowledge and experience will undoubtedly enlighten the audience. A very good day to you, sir, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much. Very good morning to everyone. Well, that was a very interesting discussion, and I had the privilege to sit in the front, and I was hearing each and every conversation, as rightly said by the MC, that I can clearly sense the fire in the belly amongst each one of them, and I really appreciate the efforts they put in. One, I can only speak about the access to finance, and I think Monica ma'am brought out a brilliant point that, even in Bank of Baroda, and I am sure all the other financial institutions, if you look at the bad rates, which we typically call the bad loans, the least is when the borrower is a woman or the enterprise is run by a woman. So but I don't believe that we should offer too many concessions and discounts, ma'am. I have slight different opinion on that, because the moment you do that, it is only the woman who comes as a namesake. So she doesn't run the enterprise. So we want that the women should run the enterprise, the business, and that's when the bankers and the financiers would support. Otherwise, men will take just their name and form a company and pocket all the subsidies, which is not the whole idea what the government wants to promote about women entrepreneurship. Well, back to the MSME. See, I head the MSME at Bank of Baroda. We are the second largest public sector bank in the country, and with a balance sheet size of north of 24 trillion, MSME business in our bank is around 1.3 trillion in book size, which is quite sizable. But when I look at the entire diaspora of the MSMEs, there are a few challenges. So one is India hosts houses 65 million MSMEs as per the latest report. Only 25 million, which is 2.5 crore MSMEs, they have access to formal credit. Now when I say formal credit, it is essentially the bankers or NBFCs or any formal way of financing. Now that's very unfortunate. A country which houses 65 million MSMEs, only 25 million have access to the formal credit, and out of that, if you take the entire demand which the MSMEs create, as per the latest report of RBI, only 45% of the MSMEs demand are met by any institution for that matter. So look at the humongous gap which we have today insofar as finance is concerned. Now what happens? Isse hota kya hai? Pyramid mein, see, the micro is at the bottom of the pyramid, then you have the small, and then you have the medium. And as a natural progression, one must progress from a micro to a medium, micro to a small, to a medium, and into a mid-corporate and a corporate. वो होता नहीं है, because the majority of the MSMEs, the micro segment guys, they end up becoming micro, and they just remain there. So the micro segment is actually bloating. Now that is good for financial inclusion. जो हमारी भारत सरकार ने अंडर द एबल लीडरशिप ऑनरेबल प्राइम मिनिस्टर ही स्टार्टेड, वो इंक्लूजन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. बट इन ऑर्डर टू ग्रो द इकोनॉमी, इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट पीपल माइग्रेट फ्रॉम अ माइक्रो टू अ स्मॉल टू अ मीडियम एंड देन टू अ मिड कॉर्पोरेट. वो इसलिए भी नहीं होता, एंड वी हैव ऑब्जर्व दैट इफ यू डू नॉट हैव अ प्रॉपर और एडिक्वेट एक्सेस टू फाइनेंस, किसी को 100 रुपए चाहिए, अगर इफ ही गेट्स ओनली 70 रुपीज, हाउ विल ही ग्रो हिज बिजनेस? सो the common question which we are flooded with, and I'm now talking from the other side of the table. I'm a banker on this side. When I talk from the MSME's point of view, उनका कॉमन ये इशू होता है कि हाउ डू यू एड्रेस माई डिमांड. माई डिमांड इज 100 रुपीज़, यू आर प्रोवाइडिंग ओनली 70 रुपीज़, उसमें भी आप 50 रुपये का कोलैटरल मांगते हैं. सो द डिमांड ऑफ कोलैटरल is of a very tall order, because bankers always want to secure their funding by mitigating their risk. You charge us obnoxiously high. We operate in very thin margins. Why do you charge such obnoxious prices? Aapki rate of interest, processing fee, inspection fee, and your host of fees which you charge, they all add up to my cost. I don't have such fact margins to kind of address these costs. The MSMEs have also issues with their parent, with their anchors, because they don't get payment in time. जो 45 days का है वो केवल written है, while there are norms which have been now pretty strict, but we still find people struggling with the payments. Now, let us talk from the banker's side, from this side. It's not that we don't want to help. Now, let me be very clear. From my bank's point of view, Bank of Baroda has got a sizable population of MSMEs. We have funded 17 lakh MSMEs which are live on our book. And let me be very open to say that today it is banks like us who have stood like a pillar of strength not for the government in terms of economy, but also with the MSMEs. Now, how do we do that? 90% of our borrowers are micro segment borrowers. We have a if you can see the trajectory of our finance, the ticket size, the loan ticket size, we fund to 10,000 rupees to a street vendor. Madam was mentioning about PM Vishwakarma, which is a very latest edition. Prior to this, in the year 2020, there was a scheme launched, PM Swanidhi. It was Prime Minister's street vendor program to finance the street vendors from an amount ticket size of 10,000 rupees. Can you imagine, aapka kaun sa economies of scale will allow you to lend 10,000 rupees? The OPEX actually shoots off the roof. But we did that 60 lakh. 6 million street vendors were financed by the public sector banks. That's a huge support to the financial inclusion. It was never a political agenda. People thought it's a political agenda. No. All the government wanted was to have a financial inclusiveness, so that these people are brought into the normal banking channel, like a Jan Dhan jo aapka account khulta hai. We supported wholeheartedly, and let me tell you, we are not, it is a 100% government guaranteed program. Now coming to the PM Vishwakarma, on the MSME day this month, and our Prime Minister is going to make major announcement on this. There's a huge, in fact, just before coming to the venue, I was having a call with the ministry. PM Vishwakarma is a fantastic scheme, and it applies to every citizen of India who want, it is for the artisans, typically in the rural and semi-urban areas. It's not for the metro cities per se. But imagine the thought process. It has been streamlined so well. You got a 1 lakh rupee loan. The moment you pay, you get a 2 lakh rupee loan, and that's how you progress. Zero collateral. You got a toolkit worth 15,000 rupees. You got a training sponsored by the government. Please reach out. I mean, you have got MSME folks here. I'm sure you do not have PM Vishwakarmas out here sitting, but since you represent, you're a brand ambassador in this sphere, you can please pass on this word to all the people who are in the village or in the semi-urban areas. Then it's a fantastic scheme, particularly for the artisans. Now, as a bank, as a public sector bank, since we are government-sponsored bank, we have two agenda which we drive. One is a social agenda. One is of course, the P&L agenda. The government has stopped funding the public sector banks, and that's precisely post-COVID. If you see in the last 2 years, all the public sector banks put together have posted a whopping profit more than 1 lakh crore. Those days are gone when we were funded by the government. There's no capital infusion by the government anymore. आप खुद अपना पैसा कमाइए, खुद lend कीजिए. So we are no different than an HDFCs of the world. So we have to drive a P&L agenda. So 14% of my MSME book rests on government schemes, which is the social agenda, which we have to, it's very obligatory in nature, there is no refusal. And then there is a 86% book which I drive purely on the P&L. Now how do you, when I was talking about the MSMEs, now let's sit on this side and think what a banker thinks. Besides the social agenda where we are obliged to actually fund the borrowers, we have to look after our P&L as well. And Bank of Baroda for the last 8 quarters have been posting fantastic profits, and I'm sure this quarter also we're going to rock on in terms of the profits. Now, how do we do that? we have to bring out products, we have to bring out innovative ways of doing business, right? There's a price challenge going on. So what we did was, I'll just sum up in, because I don't have, there's a challenge in terms of timing. I can keep talking about MSMEs for hours, but with the time constraints, I think what we did smartly was that one major initiative which we took was to digitize the MSME loan. What happens is if you're bringing down your OPEX, so in a P&L, typically what matters is your profitability, which is the ROA. Your ROA, return on asset or a return on equity comes only, there are two major costs. One is the operating cost, which आपकी salary होते हैं, आपके जो खर्चे होते हैं. एक आपका risk cost होता है, which is a very it's a dangerous animal. Now the risk cost goes up, it impacts your ROA. So when your yield drops, your yield has to drop because of the price sensitiveness, because of the competition. So when your rate of interest goes down, your yield goes down, but that gets made up by the lower risk cost. Now, how do we address the risk cost? You have smart credit engines today available as a software which helps an underwriter or a credit officer to kind of take very sensible decision. So we have brought in innovative products which are non-collateral backed. Whenever you go to a public sector bank, you're foxed with one issue is my collateral kahan se laun. So there are products in our bank which are cash flow based. There are products which do not ask for any collateral. So I think, and we are growing that book. We want to grow. We have split the whole MSME into core MSME, which is a typical working capital and term loan or an overdraft product. We have got products which are like a supply chain, which is completely digitized. There is a commercial vehicle construction equipment. There are trades. We have got a loan against property. These are small products which have created benchmark for ourselves, and we are growing this segment of the book, which directly impacts my P&L because my NPAs are less than 0.5% in these. So ladies and gentlemen, what I want to say is that my final word is that all of you who represent the MSME diaspora out here, one suggestion to all of you is that you may bank with a foreign bank or a private sector bank or an NBFC. I'm not bringing NBFCs here, but within the banking space, you may like to bank with anyone. Keep multiple partners, but always have one public sector bank in your forte. Never ignore the might of a public sector bank, because in hard times, which will come, we have witnessed these, whether it's a global meltdown and typically in COVID, it is how the public sector banks stood together with the country, and we probably are the only economy which is still growing post-COVID with so much of robustness. And it is because of these public sector banks. I come from a private sector, I've joined a public sector bank, but I know what the importance a public sector bank has to play in the national economy. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing me to, in this, we will interact again in a panel discussion. I will be happy to answer questions then. Meanwhile, it's a great opportunity to interact with you. I think Dun & Bradstreet has done a fabulous job, and I'm really thankful for keeping these women entrepreneurship in one of the panels. It was very exciting, and we hope the day as we progress, it only gets more exciting. Thank you so much.